Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. I am your host, Jen. This is a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. I'd like to express my gratitude in you listening to this podcast. I hope it is clear that this subject matter is so important to me. I care about our people, our future, and making a positive change in our nation.
This episode is powered by Poddex.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. Today we have a special guest, Walter Gaynor, host of the Boss Locks podcast. And Walter Gaynor, he is an entrepreneur, content creator, podcaster, and natural hair advocate. He is best known as the founder of the Boss Locks Media and the Boss Locks podcast. He started Boss Locks to prove that you don't have to cut your hair to be successful. He now uses this platform to speak to Black leaders worldwide to understand the range of Blackness and hear their stories of new growth. Walter is a big supporter of the C.R.O.W.N Act, and makes it a point to start conversations about natural hair. So we definitely wanted to have Walter on to talk about this topic. And I love that he is a supporter of the C.R.O.W.N Act. We've talked about that on the show many times before. Walter also runs the Working While Black Facebook community. And so he's going to tell us more about that. And we're also going to dig into a few news stories which involved individuals who faced some discrimination about their hair and why the C.R.O.W.N Act is so important. So welcome to the show, Walt.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you. Actually, really glad to be here. I remember when we first met, you kind of joined into the Black Podcast Club chat, and you shared like, "Oh yeah, this is my show." I was like, "Oh wow, that is so amazing!" Because like, Woke by Accident is definitely my story. So like, I'm really, it's kind of cool to be on this show. I feel like this is a show that I would send to like my younger self. So I appreciate the invitation.
Oh, definitely. I'm glad you could join us on today, which is MLK Day. So I'm
Oh,
happy about that. The first news story that I wanted to get your thoughts on surrounds Jimmy Hoffmeyer. Now, Jimmy Hoffmeyer is the father of a 7-year-old Journey, and they're looking for justice after a faculty member at her school cut her hair. And this particular incident took place in March of 2021. Journey had just gotten a asymmetrical haircut after a classmate cut a piece of her hair on the school bus. And so the teacher ended up cutting her hair with the intention of trying to even it up or make the differing lengths less obvious. And so the father is now suing for $1 million for cutting the daughter's hair without permission. The lawsuit alleges that the incident was racially motivated with specific intent to intimidate or harass the plaintiff because of her race or color. This one is fairly recent from just last year here. I know this was on Good Morning America, and a lot of the news stories. I don't know if you saw the video, but this poor little girl. But yeah, to do this without getting the parents' permission, what do you think about that?
yeah, man. I think it's crazy. Like whatever that teacher's intent was, I think those actions are sort of like completely unnecessary. I think that like humans have a habit of just doing things to children in the mindset of helping them, whatever. But we forget that these are children who either a may not know how to really express their consent, or
Right.
two just don't know enough to actually understand like the weight of everything. And then also like you should really just shouldn't be putting your hands on children at all, really. Really
Right.
unnecessary. And exactly, like hair is something where you could have a positive intent, but you don't really know what kind of subconscious thoughts or perceptions you have of someone's hair. So like if let's say my child went to school and someone did that to the hair, first off, that's the first thing I want to hear about. Like, why is there another student putting their hands on my child? Like that's wild.
Yeah.
But I I would not want a teacher to groom my child's hair. Like, I'll take care of that. We'll take her to the salon to some professionals
Yeah.
who can
Right.
make it look better and really boost the self-esteem as well. It's not something I need from the teachers. I need the teachers to provide a safe learning environment and resources needed to kind of grow one's mind. Maybe a pep talk for the moment, that's something that I might expect, not you to pull out some scissors from the arts and craft table to, chop it up a little bit. So yeah, Jimmy Hoffmeyer definitely supports you. Go get that money. And yeah, let these schools know that, we really do need to actually put some respect on Black children in the education system.
Yes, definitely. Definitely singling out the child by doing that. So I could see how that would be embarrassing for the little girl. Aside from the racial matter, just singling out the child in front of the others and, doing that particular action doesn't seem to be the best course of action given the circumstances. So there are a few others, and a lot of these have to do with small children, which is really kind of surprising. There's a lot of ones that you have encountered about people facing discrimination in professional settings, but this is happening to our children. So yeah, we definitely need to be more in tune with these matters. So a good discussion to have. So some other ones to go over. Back in 2017, Maya and Deanna Cook, their twin sisters from Massachusetts, had to serve detention when a school official determined that their braids violated school policy. So that's a scenario where just wearing braids violated, a school policy, and they actually were punished in receiving detention. Isn't that something that the Crown Act is supposed to prevent? I don't know if that speaks to
Mhm.
children, but tell us more about the Crown Act. I know you're a big supporter of that.
Yeah, so the Crown Act is really dope because it does more than just help people. Well, let me actually pull it all the way back. So the Crown Act, it stands for creating a respectful and an open world for natural hair. And it's designed to end hair discrimination. And it really does a lot for people in the work environments, but also people in educational environments as well. So, like when you hear about these acts of hair discrimination in schools, like that's part of what the Crown Act is fighting for. It's not just about the workplaces all across the
Okay.
board. So yeah, that's a good question because a lot of people don't know that. But yeah, this is insane. And one thing I always like to say, and part of why I really love that my podcast is kind of centered around hair, is that I feel like conversation about natural hair are a gateway to so many other types of conversations, right? So like in this case where Maya and Deanna Cook, they supposedly violated school policies. Well, that's just, how do I put it? That's just one example of how they kind of punish Black students, right? Like they say they
Mm-hmm.
violate a lot of different policies and end up suspending them or kicking them out of school for just like ridiculous things that do not affect other people at all or themselves. Like they showed up to school, probably had some really nice looking braids too, or maybe they were needed. Um, no, they probably look perfectly fine. There's probably nothing wrong with it at all. It's hair. It doesn't harm anybody. They probably felt really great about their hairstyle. Who knows how long it took for that hairstyle to like for them to actually get it braided the right way, or
Mm-hmm.
there's so much that goes into it. And then the school was just like, yeah, nah, this is not allowed. This is not quote unquote professional. It's ridiculous. And schools really do a lot to harm the future of Black children as well. Like something like this could lead to other things that they say violate policies, and then next thing you know they're at like an alternative school or maybe even like arrested for something very 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 minuscule or a misunderstanding. It
Yeah.
happens a lot, and it's not okay. Schools really do get away with it because they revert back to their policies or the school handbook.
Yes. And then, like, one story, I mean, I've covered this on the podcast before, and actually was already on my list, so I got it on here twice, is the December 2018 Andrew Johnson from New Jersey, who was in high school at the time and was made to cut his dreadlocks by a white referee participating in a wrestling match. And I think he was given the ultimatum of forfeiting the match if he didn't allow them to cut his hair right there. At the time, he was 16, and just very embarrassing moment. You can almost see it on his face because this moment was actually captured on video and was circulated, all around. Found an article about like how he kind of faced, self-esteem issue and just embarrassment because everywhere he would go, oh, you're that boy that they cut his hair. On the wrestling match incident, and then that referee ended up having some other racial accusations on him. So, again, a high school scenario where the hair is being cut. So we, have a small child, we have a high school student going through this. This is happening quite a bit. But any thoughts on the Andrew Johnson about the wrestling? So we see sports, kind of having their own thoughts on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was actually an example of multiple things, right? Because I remember when that happened. I've spoken about it a bunch on the early episodes of my podcast. And in that situation, he was at a wrestling match, and the referee or umpire, the official, whatever the job title is, he basically interpreted the rules, kind of forced that direction, because the rule books did not state anything about that hairstyle being against the policies or whatever, but it was vague enough that he could interpret it to be like, yeah, no, this is not allowed. And that wasn't like his first match up ever. He had competed multiple times during that competition. That was like one match, and to do that right before a match, it's really wrong, because like it wasn't just a decision about whether or not he wants to have that hairstyle or cut it. It's like, do I want to lose this match? Do I want to let my whole team down? Do I want to let my school down? There's a lot riding on it. So there were a lot of reasons to say, okay, cut my hair, and only a few to be like, no, you're not touching my hair. And it was really ridiculous. One thing that I did appreciate is that he wasn't there by himself. Like, other people supported him, but even the support wasn't really that full support. Like, they should have just like shut the whole match down, but like, yeah, no, you can't do this. But instead, like, his coaches, they did plead with the referee official person, but in the end, they did end up supporting the cutting of the locks. And it's like, even when you have support, it's like, is it even the right support?
Right. And then my other examples are other school scenarios where children are being expelled. In a city in Louisiana, I see Terrytown, Louisiana, from September of 2018. The child was expelled because of the extension braids were unacceptable under the school code. So just a lot of scenarios where we're seeing braids. Our natural hairstyles are not accepted. So the only thing that's bad about the C.R.O.W.N Act is it's so fairly new that it's not in every state. So we're not protected, everywhere. Like, I don't think it's in Missouri where I am. It started in California, from my understanding.
Yep. California was the first state to pass the C.R.O.W.N Act. New York City was the first place it was passed, but it was just the city. Then California, the state, was literally like right behind it. I don't even remember like what kind of gap there was, but same year, around the same time. And since then, for the most part, most of the states have discussed it. Like in Georgia, it's been part of the, I guess, process of being approved. But one thing about politics is like everyone wants to like cram other things in there with it to get it passed. So I think part of the holdup is not only, still convincing people that this should be passed, is that other people just add their own agenda in it as well. So to pass the
Mm-hmm.
Crown Act, they also want to pass other things too. So it's like a really slow process and something that's already a slow process. But in the meantime, people are, like you said, getting expelled from school for not misbehaving
Mm-hmm.
or do anything to harm others, but just for growing their hair naturally in a way that causes other people discomfort. But that discomfort is more of a personal problem than that student's problem. Uh,
Right.
yeah, it's ridiculous. Like people call black hair distracting, dirty, gross, ugly. They associate with like negative perceptions about black people in general. Like I always say, like, me with locks, when people see me, I feel like they, whatever they feel about black people, it's like amplified times 10. Right. It's all because, I'm growing my hair out. That's it. I don't do anything. I'm usually walking around smiling, but people are still afraid of me. And that's the same
Mm-hmm.
in classroom. The only difference is in the classroom, students aren't as empowered. And there, it's very easy for someone in an authoritative position or just someone of influence or someone who's looked at as like the, I don't know, just the adult in the situation.
Right.
They always get benefit of the doubt, and students don't always have the tools or resources needed to kind of support and protect themselves. And parents, unfortunately, don't have a lot of resources to support the situation either, even if they know that it's not okay. So, like, I know, well, not last year. I have to I keep saying a few years ago, but like there is a student in Texas who was suspended because the school changed their policies on hair when it comes to male students with long hair. It
Okay.
changed the policy midway through the year, and then right after the change, they suspended that student. That was uh, DeAndre Arnold. And then his cousin ended up getting suspended as well. And that fortunately caught mainstream news, and he ended up getting all sorts of support. I think he may have ended up on Ellen.
Mm-hmm.
He's good, but there's so many other students who don't get the recognition. Like I know people personally who had to make the choice to either cut their locks or just leave the school. And it was a really good school they're at as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's people playing games with their lives, and it's ridiculous.
Oh wow. So yeah, I would like to get your personal account. You wear locks for people who may be listening. Um you have very long locks, so you've had them for a while. What has been your experience, wearing natural hair? You mentioned a few comments that people, but just, in, corporate America, when you were in high school or college or what have you, what was your personal experience?
I've had a very positive experience with my locks. Just in general, I say overall positive. Always get praise and admiration. Sometimes that praise and admiration is way too much, and people just feel privileged to just go ahead and stick the hand out and treat you like you're at a petting zoo. But
Okay.
I think the past few years have been really insightful, especially as I'm on the journey of speaking more about things like hair discrimination and growing
Mhm.
my podcast. I'm able to kind of look back a lot more and really analyze things from a whole different perspective. And, the natural hair journey, it teaches you a lot about yourself, but then also how other people perceive you. And a lot of people have assumptions, especially if you're the first black person they ever met. They have all these different assumptions. They see your hair, they automatically are like football player, criminal, rapper. What are you? So it's like you get all these questions, or these first encounter questions, or even the
Okay.
third or fifth encounter questions. It's a lot. People do a lot. People
I
do
mean,
a lot.
maybe like specifically in professional settings, maybe on an interview or somewhere
Oh,
like
gotcha.
that. Has there been any inappropriate type of comments you received or?
Once I've had a direct comment where someone asked how important my hair was to me. And I
Mhm.
told them that it was just hair, but I really just said that just because I didn't feel like getting into it. I knew that I wasn't going to cut it for this job, but I was just saying it to like move the interview along. I personally haven't had a lot of direct hair discrimination moments, but one thing
Mhm.
when it comes to discrimination in general, sometimes it's hard to pinpoint it because oftentimes people aren't the bold racists that you see on TV or hear about in the news, right? They're very slick, very discreet. Maybe sometimes they don't even know why they feel a way about you. So for me, I think sometimes it's like a more of a instinct or a feeling that there's something about you that makes that other person feel uncomfortable. But
Okay.
no, I haven't had a direct experience. Actually, sorry, that's a lie. Back in the day, when the corporate inspector would come in, we'd always have points knocked off, literally just because of my hair. And we always scored high, so it wasn't like a huge impact on me. But after a while, the managers would ask me to not come in on the days that the inspector came through, or ask me to wait before I clocked in and all that stuff. So, and at the time, it actually felt like I was being supported,
Mm-hmm.
but I've still learning, and other people kind of helping me to understand that that really was just them looking out for themselves. Like
Right.
support isn't just surface level. You shouldn't have to hide someone to support them. You got to
Oh, for
be
sure.
upfront and
Definitely.
support them. But yeah, discrimination comes in so many different forms, and that's part of why I wanted like to start my podcast because everyone has unique experiences, right? Like I've interviewed a lot of people who haven't experienced direct hair discrimination. They've been able to thrive in their career, and I love those stories because a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
feel like we can't if we have our natural hair. But then other people, they've actually experienced hair discrimination and had to choose to not accept a job because they weren't going to cut their hair, or even someone who actually used the Crown Act to combat hair discrimination because they were in California. So I actually had to do a check-in call with them because at the time it was like mid process of trying to combat that and find some settlement. So we couldn't speak too much on the case, but yeah, I definitely want to see where he landed now.
That's awesome. Since you mentioned the podcast, tell us more about the vision and how you got started as far as your subject matter, what you cover on the podcast.
Yeah, so the Boss Locks, the podcast, it started like you mentioned before about proving that you don't have to cut your hair. But the reason I started it was because I was graduated from college, and all that praise and admiration I talked about before really turned to conversations of like, hey, all right, so you're getting ready to enter the workforce. You're graduating college. This is your time to shine, but you're gonna have to cut your hair if you want to get a good job, right? And understood, what they were talking about. Like we just spent the past podcast listening about all these different moments where people experience hair discrimination in school. Well, same year I graduated, a woman was basically faced with an ultimatum. Like, yeah, you could work here, we love you, but you're gonna have to cut your locks. And she chose to not cut her locks and took that company to court and went to all these different types of courts. And finally the US Circuit Court ruled that companies are allowed to not hire someone based on hair. Like they stated that hair is not tied to race.
Mm.
And so basically that taught me that, okay, yeah, so I already know that people, um, well, not everyone wants Black people at their workplace, and they are not going to be held responsible for discriminating against someone who's Black and has locks. So I wasn't sure what to do, but I did know that I knew a few people who had locks and were in the workplace. So this whole podcast started for me just feeling discouraged and wanting to kind of get some guidance on how to navigate professional environments. And
Nice.
that's that mindset is still true to this day. So now my goals and my visions aren't just related to kind of advocating for natural hair or supporting people with natural hair, but it's also just really to help people who are feeling discouraged. And I'm still focusing on Black people because that's important to me, to be honest. Like that's the
Yeah,
reason. But
for sure.
yeah, it's really all about helping people who are feeling discouraged.
And I love how it's written on your website and where you speak about boss locks, the I guess double entendre, if you will, of new growth. Like I guess
Mhm.
that was intentional. I love that.
Thank you, thank you.
I think you even have that on a shirt, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm working on redoing the way we do merch to make it more accessible and not rely on other people's shipping times. Get it to you sooner. But yeah, the
Okay.
whole I love new growth concept. Yeah, inspired by natural hair. Like I said, hair is a gateway to everything else. But on the natural hair journey, I mean, you know it. Like when your hair grows and may have it in style, may have it in locks, braids, whatever it is. It grows naturally. It's that new growth. And for most of my life, most of everybody's natural hair journey, we always try to hide the new growth or rush to take care of it real
Right.
quick, all that stuff, put the head wraps on until we get to the salon or barber or wherever. But I'm really, as I'm kind of maturing in my own hair journey, I'm realizing that, new growth is nothing but a symbol that your hair is healthy because it's still growing. And we shouldn't have to hide it. There's that idea of the ugly stage, and that's negative. And that does something to our own kind of psyche and how we perceive ourselves. So I realized that just personal growth in our journey of evolution is just the same. We always want to rush to that Instagram worthy moment where we made it, uh, like that's all I remember when I was dusty. Like we don't want to hot show us when we're like starting to come up and everything, but that part's important, right? Because like you
Right.
can't just like jump to the end of the race. You got to run the race, and that moment is actually
Mm.
really beautiful. And there's a lot of really great lessons there. Like always want to ask people who are at the top like how they got there, but we just want that quick answer. Like, okay, how do I just leap past all this other stuff here? But no, we really need to take time to really appreciate the moments we are in, negative, positive, whatever it is, and really accept it for what it is because it's all necessary on our journey to growth.
Definitely. I love that. And some people probably don't even realize that play on new growth because they may be like, what's new growth?
Yeah, they
you
don't, but they
know, it's,
will.
but yeah, I love that. That's so clever. Okay, let's pivot and ask you some questions from the good people at Poddex, which are unique interview questions that people can use on their podcast or for with friends or what have you. So shout out to Poddex. Okay, so if you had to lose one of your five senses, which one would you give up?
That's crazy, especially during these pandemic times. Definitely not taste. I love food. Um, Man, that's tough. Can't do well. That's really tough. Five senses, maybe sight, and I'm only saying that because I love that show Daredevil, the
Mm,
Netflix series, and I want to become him. So if one has to go, then maybe sight, but I'm not
oh,
gonna be
that's
happy about it.
deep. That you would be willing.
Not willing, but if I have to become a superhero because of it, then let me do that. He seemed like he's living life. Actually, I'm
True.
gonna change that to hearing.
Really?
I don't know, man. Let's I'll stick with what I thought. I said sight
Yeah.
loud, boldly, so we'll just stick with that.
Okay. That's good. And then let's see. Who or what has been the biggest or no, what or who has made the biggest impression on your life in the last year?
What or who has made the biggest impression? That's so crazy. These past 2 years have been very transformative. Where I am now is nowhere close to where I was 2 years from now. Last year was a really um rough moment in the journey of growth, and life really kind of hit me with a challenge. So um I'm gonna have to say my girlfriend, my partner, definitely has been a huge part on my journey to growth. Um, yeah, yeah, just always challenging me to become a better person as well. So definitely her.
That's awesome. And then what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time?
My phone.
Uh huh.
I would rather lose my wallet than lose my phone. So yeah, definitely that. That's everything. I could do everything I want to do just with my phone: podcast, video creation,
That's true.
entertainment, banking. I could work from my phone. I have when the power went out
Hmm.
because Georgia, these trees keep falling on the power lines and they try to mess my day up. So yeah, yeah, I definitely got to have my phone on me.
Okay. And one more for fun. What do you think is not fair in today's society?
The way people treat black people, look at black people, the disrespect they have for black people. I just recorded a video, since you already mentioned we're recording MLK Day, I was just kind of talking about how people love to focus on that one part of his speech where he's talking about black boys
Mm-hmm.
and girls, black and white boys and girls playing together, coexisting together. But for most of my life, I've never really heard that many people talk about how he was really fighting to hold the U.S. government accountable for guaranteeing equality for African American citizens. Like that was the goal. There was a lot of things that fall under that.
Right.
So yeah, it's not fair.
I need to do a whole MLK episode.
Right.
I was tiptoed in a couple of rooms on Clubhouse, dear
I
old
gotta be
Clubhouse,
clubhouse sometimes.
that had MLK in the title, and this room actually had a lot of non-black people in it, and so I said, "Oh, let me, soak up some MLK discussion on MLK Day." And one lady who was not black said that, felt like Martin Luther King was a holiday for them, not us. She's white, so she's saying that, and I was just like, oh my gosh, she doesn't feel that it's
Hmm.
a holiday for everyone because, in some circles, we use this day not just as a day off, but a day on, as we say in some of my um, circles, that we use this day to do community service, give back. It's really an opportunity to reflect on the achievements and things that Martin Luther King did to make all of our lives better, not just black people. So I kind of was sad to hear her say that she felt that it was a holiday for them, not us, them being them.
Yeah. You know what?
So
I would say that's interesting. I'm someone who could like no. She's wrong for sure. Let me just say that clear, loud and clear. I feel like it is a holiday for us and a day of service for everyone else.
right.
I feel like black people take the day off. We're getting ready for a cookout in a little bit.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I feel it's similar about Juneteenth as well. Like it's great. It's a federal holiday kind of,
Hmm.
but it's almost like I wish it could be like like reserved for black people, like an underground hood holiday or something like that. And other people just know that we're gonna not work but still get paid. It'll be a
And
paid day off
it's
for us.
interesting you bring up Juneteenth. It happened so fast because literally, like, we were working, and then all the news about it's approved as a federal holiday, and then I think they even like some places got it off, or I think it got approved like the day
Mhm.
before. It was like a really quick window, and it's like, okay, next year you guys are gonna get that off. It's like, oh yeah, it's just kind of interesting how that happened.
Right. It's a lot of adjustments of feelings. Like, how do I really feel about this? And what I'm going to do about those feelings as well. 'Cause it's obviously great, right? It's a
It's a good
positive step
thing.
because you're acknowledging something that happened in the history. And anytime you really acknowledge some truth in history, that's a good thing. But the implementation of like that acknowledgement is always like questionable. What's the motivation? Are you trying to just like not have another protest summer or something like that? Or what's
Hmm.
the real motivation? So
Okay, and then as we wrap it up, go ahead and let our listeners know where they can find your podcasts and reach out.
yeah. So wherever you're listening to this podcast right now, this episode, one, I appreciate your time. But two, just same app, go ahead and search Boss Locks. That's BOSSLOCKS. Don't forget the K. And you'll see this beautiful illustration of my face along with Boss Locks and several episodes where we just tell the stories of Black leaders from all walks of life. And you wanted to get in touch with me, I live on LinkedIn now. I was accepted into their Creator Accelerator program. And that basically means that they're handing me keys to the secret tools to just continue to create. And I'm creating content to support people working while Black. So
That's great.
not holding back. We're going all in. and definitely hit me up. I love meeting new people. So let me know that you came from the Woke by Accident community. Because I'd love to hear, how you came across me. So I actually do reach out to you sooner than others. I'm giving y'all first access or priority access. So yeah, let me hit me up before the DMs get too flooded.
Awesome. Anything else to share?
That's it. Jen, I just appreciate you. I love seeing this podcast continue to grow. It seems like you just on this like consistent train to where you want to get to, and I don't see it the rails shaking. I don't see the train losing steam. I really love seeing your progression. So yeah, I'm just a big fan of what you're doing. Love the Woke by Accident podcast. Yeah, man. No, I just appreciate you.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you joining us today. You're welcome here anytime. And we thank you guys for listening. Take care. At this time, we're going to go ahead and conclude the episode. We greatly appreciate you listening. We invite you to follow us on social media. On Instagram, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. On Twitter, it is Woke by. On Facebook, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. We also have the new website up, www.wokebyaccident.net. Please check us out and also follow us on all of your favorite streaming platforms, and please leave a review and share feedback. You can also reach out by Gmail, wokebyaccident@gmail.com. And every time you listen, we appreciate it so much. Thank you for listening and take care.